If you're a real estate agent and you're tired of cold calling, door knocking, and spending money on ads, then subscribe to this podcast. We discuss leveraging the power of YouTube for your real estate business and how these strategies earned us over $1 million in GCI our first year in real estate. My name is Levi Lascsak and my partner is Travis Plumb. Let's get started. Welcome. This is YouTube for real estate, and as we like to call it as well, passive prospecting. You'll be seeing passive prospecting come out a lot more. This is something that we released in Build at Build 2022 when we spoke a couple of weeks there. That's what I was thinking about this. I was thinking about, what's the right message? And it was interesting because we are working on the book right now, and it was interesting because I had a conversation with Benji Travis, who's the co-author of YouTube Secrets, and he said, hey, the book will come to you. Because I asked him, what should the title be? And he said, it'll come to you. Don't worry. He goes, the title will come to you. He said, just write the book and everything else will come. I was like, all right. And so been working on it for several months. And that conversation was probably 6 months ago. And sure enough, in the midst of putting all the information, content together, writing out the book, just hit me one day. I was like, oh, this is what we're doing. We're passively prospecting. I mean, everybody loves the idea of passive income now, which of course we all know that passive income takes a lot of work to get to passive income, right? And so that's definitely something that we have to work towards and build up and build that momentum. I mean, even if you look at a pension, a pension takes you 40 or 50 years in a job to get to that passive income, but ultimately passive income is what I believe most people work towards, or at least they like the idea of working towards that. Now, you can frame that in several different ways as far as freedom, time freedom, family freedom. Ultimately, I think the way you get to those is by having the income that allows you to live the lifestyle that you want. That to me is the ultimate freedom. So we all, I believe, are working towards that goal of passive income. And that doesn't mean you have to be earning something every single month. It could be that maybe you sell a business and you cash out, and so therefore you have income because ultimately you're going to pay yourself an income from your savings, but your savings are so big that you don't have to worry about working ever again. Now, I also believe that we are tuned to be working on something. So I'm not really sure if a lot of people don't really retire. Of course, some people want to do that. They want to retire and do absolutely nothing or just hang out with their family. I think I'll always be tinkering on something. I think I'll always probably be working on something. But for me, yes, freedom, time freedom, family freedom, those types of things I'm working towards. And that, income is going to allow me to do that. Now, in addition to that, the passive prospecting, I tell you what, I've been in sales for 20 plus years, and it's the one thing that I've always disliked about sales was the prospecting aspect of it, because I would spend 90% of my time prospecting, to spend 10% of my time having conversations with people, which is what I love doing, and talking about my product or service. And that was the point. So whether I was selling gym memberships with Michael Reese back in the early 2000s, or in the pharmaceutical industry, or in the financial services industry, or the cell phone industry, and now the real estate industry. Those businesses, like at Bally Total Fitness, that's where I got my start with sales. And I met Michael Reese there before he got into real estate. If anybody knows Michael Reese, several do, but we sold gym memberships together. And the whole point, Bally Total Fitness was in a very aggressive sales model. A very, very aggressive sales model. The whole goal was every single day was to get 5 appointments. But to get those 5 appointments, we had to make 10 hours worth of phone calls, because the 5 appointments counted only if you got somebody committed to come into the gym the next day. And so you would spend on Monday, your whole goal was to get 5 appointments, people that are committed to come into the gym on a Tuesday. Now, the thing is that you did not stop calling. Actually, you never stopped calling, but you definitely did not stop calling until you had 5 appointments the next day. So if you set appointments on Wednesday or Thursday, that didn't count. You had to have 5 every single day. And we would work 10 to 10. That was the schedule at the gym, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And now, of course, we wouldn't call after 8 o'clock, 8 p.m., but we would, those last 2 hours, we would literally plan out the next day, kind of take a little time to breathe because you just called for 10 hours, and then you would plan out the next day. But ultimately, hundreds of phone calls every single day to try to get 5 appointments. And they used to do what they called lead boxes, which they would place these little boxes all around town. And you would have to, and it'd say, hey, apply for a free membership or win a free membership or get your 2-week free membership. And that's what it was about. So people would fill out their information. They'd be interested in a 2-week, a 2-week free trial or something like that. And then you'd call them, get them into the gym because you wanted to tour them around, show them everything, and then, overcome objections. Why they tell you why they shouldn't sign up for the gym, or they wanted to take advantage of their 2-week trial. All these things. And so it was very aggressive sales, and that's where I learned sales with Michael Reese. It was funny because he also took me to my first self-development workshop, which was Brian Tracy. Brian Tracy at that time would tour around the country and do 1-day seminars for free. And I don't know if it was 1 day, it was at least 4 hours or so, but he would, do it for free. And then, of course, he would pitch his products. He would have all of his programs that you could go run to the back and buy the CD cases, everything. And he had a lot of them. And I remember I was about 21 years old, I believe. And I just got my first credit card in the mail. If anybody ever remembers back then too, like around 2001, 2002, I don't know, for me, in my young 20s, Capital One just sent me a credit card. I never applied for it anything. Like, they just sent me a credit card with a $300 limit. I was like, oh, cool, my first credit card. This is for emergencies, right? And I put it in my wallet and I said, that's all this is just for emergencies. Well, Michael took me to the Brian Tracy event, and it was the first time I'd ever heard about self-development or, improving your skills or self-improvement, anything like that. And I just listened to Brian Tracy talk about sales and all the business he had closed and the power of closing. And he had a book, 101 sales closes, and just all this stuff, the psychology of selling, the psychology of mindset, all these types of things. And I just remember I was so inspired. I was like, I went straight to the back of the room and maxed out that $300 credit card I had for emergencies and bought, I believe, 8 different CD programs, which was the psychology of selling, the psychology of mindset, the psychology of habits or something. I don't know. It was just, I bought 6 or 7 or 8 different CD programs. Each of them had like 6 CDs in it as well. Basically courses on CD about how to improve yourself and your sales and your mindset and everything. And that was my first investment in myself when I really had no money to do that in the first place. Maxed that credit card out and bought that. And that's what started my journey in there. But whenever, getting back to Bali, still had to prospect, really, I felt like 99% of the time to actually talk to people 1% of the time. Then making that move, I was still in the reserves. I'd gotten out of the military. I was in the reserves, and that's whenever I ended up getting deployed, got called up, of course, after September 11th, which is about the time that Michael Reese was making the move into real estate. And I was going to follow him there. I was going to go into real estate with him at that time, but then I got deployed and I got called up for 18 months and was gone. So whenever I came home in 2006, I got a job because I just needed to get to work. I wasn't thinking in a business owner mindset or trying to be a real estate agent. Of course, Michael was doing very well at that time as a real estate agent. He was in his 2nd or 3rd year, maybe 4th year at that time, and was hitting momentum there. And I was just like, I just need a job, need to get to work, to get my mind off of everything that just happened, and got into cell phones. And I started selling cell phones at Costco. And that, if you've ever been into Costco and look at that little booth that You pass by and it has all the cell phones right there. That was me. That was me. What was that, 17 years ago or so, and I would sell cell phones. Well, guess what? Nobody goes to Costco to buy cell phones, and so I would be there interrupting people. We've talked before, one of our earlier episodes on the podcast. Actually, Chrissy, can you do that real quick? Can you pin the link to the podcast at the top of this?
Yeah, I can do that.
And so that's what, moving forward, this is where we want people to, we definitely want to direct people that way. For those that do miss this live room, then they can double back and check us out on the podcast. But the thing is that, where was I, selling cell phones in Costco? You know, nobody goes there to, we talked about that on an earlier episode, which was interruption versus intention-based marketing. You know, everything we do is typically interruption marketing, and that's what I was doing. At Bally's, I was calling people. Yes, maybe they filled out a little form, but I still had to call them and interrupt them in the middle of their day and say, hey, do you want to come into the gym tomorrow? When's a good time? Before lunch or after lunch? In the evening or after, before... all these different things, and you'd have to do these alternative closes and the A/B close, and that's where all of that mattered, because we were interrupting people. You had to understand how to overcome concerns and rejections and give people our alternative closes. I mean, that's where closing really, really was important. And then you get into cell phones, interrupting people shopping at Costco. They're there to buy 1,000 pieces of toilet paper. They're not there to buy a cell phone. And so they would walk by, and I'd have to think of creative ways to interrupt them, to get them to stop, to possibly even consider, talking to me about a cell phone. By the way, I did very well at Bally's. I went straight to the top. But again, I didn't reinvent anything at Bally's. I studied what Michael did, because Michael was the best salesperson there, studied him, and then just, rinsed and repeat. When I was at Costco, the first thing I did whenever I got in there is I said, who's the top salesperson? I could see that by rankings, but I asked my manager, can I go sit with them for a day or two? And they're like, sure. So I went and sat with them, and I observed them, how they did it. But I came up with my own ways. But the thing is that back, at least back then, I'm not sure now, but rebates were a big deal on cell phones. The carriers were offering $50, $100, or $100 rebates sometimes on cell phones. So that kind of became my thing. People would walk by in Costco, and I would say, hey, can I pay $50 towards your groceries today? Or I'd say, hey, can I buy $100 towards your groceries today? I would get people to stop left and right. And they would stop, and they'd say, you want to pay me $50? I'd say, yeah, I'm going to pay $50 towards you. And they, how do you do that? And I'd be like, well, what cell phone do you have? I'd say, what kind of cell phone do you have? They say, oh, I have T-Mobile, AT&T, whatever. I'd say, oh, okay, what's your plan? How much are you paying per month? So I immediately would go into asking questions. And, instead of just answering, oh, here's how I can pay $50 towards your groceries, I'm going to give you a rebate once you buy a cell phone. No, you don't do that. You ask questions. You clarify. You understand. You dig in. You start to figure out where's the in for me, right? Is there a way? Okay, how long ago did you get that phone? Because, how long ago did you get it would be my questions. And I'm just thinking about this all off the top of my head, but from 17 years ago. But I would want to know, are they in a contract? If they say, well, I just got my phone last month, they probably just signed a brand new 2-year contract with that phone. So that may not be an option. That may be a dead end. And I was the type of person where I was like, well, if I can find an in, I'm going to find it really quickly. If I can't, I'm going to find out really quickly so I can move on and try to capture, because every time I stopped somebody and they were talking to me, there was 5, 10, 15 other people walking by that I would miss. So I had to evaluate and understand somebody in their current situation with their cell phone very quickly, because I wanted to make sure, do I have somebody I can work with here or not? And I was not afraid to do that very quickly through a series of questions and probing and understanding, so that I could make that sell. Well, became the top cell phone salesperson at Costco very quickly. Well, then I moved into pharmaceuticals, and I got recruited because of what I did at pharmaceuticals. One of the people that I met at Costco really enjoyed working with me and thought I had a lot to offer, and they were with a pharmaceutical company, and so they recruited me to a pharmaceutical company. When I got in there, guess what we did? We had to visit doctors. And guess what we had to do with doctors? We had to run around town, find out when their schedules were, when would they see reps, was it during certain times, was it certain days, and then on top of that, when are the other reps? Because if you find out that information, guess what? The other sales reps are going to find out that information on top of that. So therefore, you have to do digging, you have to establish a route, you have to figure out the times and the places that the doctor is going to be there, and when you can see them, and how do you get in, and can I bring them muffins and lunch and everything else in between. So, all these questions would come up that you would have to solve these problems. But ultimately, the one thing I really did not like about pharmaceuticals was I never really felt like I was selling. Going from memberships to cell phones, those were like contract sales, because I would actually get people to sign the dotted line to buy a membership or to buy a cell phone. They would actually have to sign something. I could, at the end of the day, account for, hey, I made 3 sales today, I made 5 sales today, I made 8 sales today. I could tell that was definitive. In pharmaceuticals, you would ask doctors, hey, will you prescribe? And they would say, yeah, sure, I'll prescribe. And it was a handshake. Now, clearly there were prescription numbers, and you could see that by doctor. You could look at the data, and if they started at 0 prescriptions, and then after I talked to them for a month or 2 or 3, and they started prescribing 100 or 200 or 300 bottles a month, you could see that, and that's how you were paid, where you were paid off of that. But also, it was very hard, because every single doctor, every single one of them would be like, okay, thank you, yeah, I'll prescribe it, and then you'd sit there and just look at zeros most of the time. And so I just felt like I was always prospecting, always following up, always doing these things. And that's why I wanted to move out of pharmaceuticals, because I was like, I don't really feel like this is real sales. But within 18 months, I got promoted to the corporate office. So, that was it. I was like, okay, well, if I got promoted to the corporate office, because I still became the top salesperson, it just never really set well with me. So ultimately, when I got promoted to the corporate office, then that kept me there several more years, because I was doing something completely different, and it just became lucrative at that point. And from there, and that's whenever I got really sick. And whenever I got sick, I lost that job, because after 90 days, they wanted me to come back to work. I literally had to go on family medical leave, or what they called FMLA, like the Family Medical Leave Act, but it's only good for 90 days. And after 90 days, they're like, hey, you coming back to work? And I wasn't physically able to do it because I was extremely ill. And so we had to part ways. We parted ways amicably. They did offer me a severance package, which was nice. They had no obligation to do that, but I'd been with them between 7 to 8 years. So that was it, and got a $45,000 severance package, and that was it. And it was kind of like, okay, there goes 8 years, and and then in recovery, that's whenever I started the financial services business and started working with schools and got the contracts with schools. But guess what? You can't just walk into schools. You can't just go door to door in schools. You can't just. So we had to develop an email system. We would literally email teachers 100 a day to try to get, would try to get 3 to 5 appointments a day. That was the goal. Some days I'd have 2, some days I'd have 5, some days I'd have 4. And the thing is that there was no real exact science to it, except for the fact that we knew we needed to send out at least 100 emails a day. But that was a lot of work, because then if 20 of them replied, I would have to coordinate. Okay, what time are you available? When's your office hours? When, what's the day of the week? And so there was multiple back and forth going on there. Now, eventually I had an assistant that did that for me on the coordinating, so that helped. But then I just showed up every day, and I would have 2 to 5 appointments every single day. And that was a better system. That was more like passive prospecting at the time, because I developed that system to where somebody else was doing the emails, because nobody needs to know that was me, but it was somebody working as me, and would email those people, get the information back, coordinate the time, everything. And so every day I would just look at my calendar, and I'd usually be booked out for the week. So on Sunday I would know, okay, I've got this many appointments, and that's where I need to go. And that's where I kind of, first developed sort of a passive prospecting system, because there I wasn't I wasn't the one doing the reach outs and the information, so I developed that. And so I think that's what really helped me in the mindset of, making that transition into real estate, because whenever that business shut down, when all the schools shut down in 2020, then, over the summer, I sat there during that summertime, first of all, asking myself, how did I end up in this situation? How could I be 41 years old, and how do I start over without starting over? And those are the questions I had to ask myself, and they were tough questions, because I was literally saying, okay, what just happened? First of all, how am I in this situation? How can I be 41 and I've got, it's like nothing's there. I managed my money well, and I had savings, which allowed me to ask these questions. That's the other thing. If I had not, managed my money well and had been in a position to where I didn't need to work for the next 12 months, then I probably would have been forced to make different choices. But because I had, built up some, a buffer for myself, that allowed me to just sit back over the summer of 2020. Now, here's the other thing. I didn't watch Tiger King. I didn't watch Game of Thrones. Nothing against those shows, but I didn't take that time to binge watch Netflix. I actually didn't watch any Netflix, because I got online and I sat in front of my computer and I started to research, and I spent more money than I've ever spent before. I doubled down. I was like, one thing I know for sure is I'm not going to go back and get a job. I'm not going to get a job. I've already owned my own business for the last 5 to 6 years. I'm definitely not going to go down that route. But then here's Michael Reese coming back to me 20 years later, still saying, hey man, now's the best time to get into real estate. I was just thinking, man, you've got like a 20-year head start on me, And so really being a real estate agent was the last thing on my list there. I was starting to think, what are all the things I can do to not become a real estate agent? Because I was still thinking of it in the terms of being a solo agent and someone who would go out there, shake hands and kiss babies, which nothing wrong with that at all whatsoever. I was just thinking that's not the position I wanted to be in right now. So how do I make this transition? First of all, why am I in the situation I'm in right now, where when the business stops, everything stops? Okay, this happened with pharmaceuticals whenever I got sick, or whenever I went to the military, when I got deployed. Clearly the gym memberships, right? If I'm not setting up appointments, selling memberships, the day I stop, that income stops. Then I move into cell phones. Guess what? If I didn't go to work and sell a cell phone, there was no income coming from that. And when I moved into pharmaceuticals and I got sick and that stopped, guess what? There was no pension plan for me there. There was no reoccurring revenue. There was nothing coming in from that. And then I went into, my financial services business. Started building that up. Now there's a whole nother story to that actually, but I'll save that for another time. But when the pandemic hit and the schools shut down, then I find myself, okay, shut down again in a sense. And I was like, okay, what's the factor? What's the limiting factor in all these years, over 20 years, that I feel like at 41, I'm starting over I'm starting over. And I realized that limiting factor was me. I was the problem. I was the one that had to do everything myself. I was the one that felt like I was the best person for the job. I was the one making the sales. I had never scaled myself. I had never positioned myself for a business to continue without me. I had never put the systems and the processes and the people in place. I was just doing it all myself. I was a super solo salesperson. And I was good. And that's not ego, that's just the reality of it. It was just like but I learned every position I had with each different company, I didn't start from scratch. I immediately went to the top person and said, what are you doing? How did you get there? How can I adapt it to, how can I adopt it? How can I model it? And how can I adapt it to fit my personality? And then I thought, ooh, how can I do better? Can I beat them in a nice, friendly sort of way, right? Can I do better? And that was always my goal, was to just learn from the successful people that had done it. So here I was, okay, looking at real estate now, and then I thought, okay, well, hold on a second. If I'm the limiting factor, if I haven't scaled myself accordingly, I haven't done the right things to put the right systems and processes in place, and I'm the problem, how do I not make that mistake moving into real estate if I'm actually going to make that move and make the move over there? So another thing Michael Reese always said to me that really hit home was, it's not the best real estate agent that wins, it's the best marketer. So I knew, okay, I definitely need a marketing plan. But what type of plan, what type of marketing plan is going to work for me whenever I'm in Dallas, one of the most competitive markets in the country with the most real estate agents, some of the highest number of real estate agents in the country, some of the biggest brands, some of the biggest names. I mean, am I just going to start sending out postcards and generate business? Probably, you know, I could, but still, I'm still competing with everybody else there. So what am I going to go out and cold call and door knock? Again, nothing wrong with that at all whatsoever. And I really commend people that do that. And look, some people, that is their skill and that's what they love to do. But for me, again, at 41, I was thinking that's not the position. It was pretty cool for me whenever I was 20, like, you know, at Bally's making all those calls. It was a game. I had fun doing it, but I secretly kind of didn't like it. But I had to make it a game every single day so that I wouldn't, you know, I would look forward to going to work instead of hating going to work. And so I just thought, okay, well, how do I attract business? How am I going to bring people to me without me chasing them? Because that's what I started to think, and those are the questions I started to ask myself. And so I was just patient over 2020 to say, all right, let me just take a minute here. Let me just think about this. And that's whenever I started to spend money on other things, really, again, to try to not to get into real estate. So I bought several courses. I joined a couple of masterminds. I mean, I joined a mastermind that cost $17,000 to get in. I bought a $10,000 course. I bought a $5,000 course. I bought a course on wholesaling, you know, and I was just thinking, what ways can I do not be an agent? But then what I realized is that, like, even like the wholesaling course, great wholesaling course, but what did it take? It took their main premise of getting business was get on the phones, call the people, you know, find all the tax records, all the people delinquent, you know, going into pre-foreclosure. And guess what? You got to call them. You got to mail postcards. And I was like, well, sounds kind of like a real estate agent. And here Michael is over here saying, hey, man, you know, we got some big things happening, you know, you should really come join us. And I just thought, okay. So then when I finally made the decision, okay, maybe it's going to be real estate. Now I had to start looking into how can I attract business? What can I do to bring that in? Well, I knew immediately it was going to be through social media. I knew that, but I wasn't sure. I was thinking, okay, which platform on social media is going to be good for me? And so that's where oh, hey, Justin, how are you doing? Good to see you.
I am well, Levi. It's been a minute. I have it in my calendar as a standing appointment to come support this room, and just got back from vacation, so popped in and glad you're here.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Well, I was just going on a little rant for a little while, so and if anybody has any questions, please feel free to raise your hand. I'd love to bring you up on stage, and then also, or you can throw them in the chat. And so I was just kind of rounding out this, Justin. I'm not sure where you came in. I was just ranting it up about passive prospecting, how that came about. And so, you know, making that move into real estate, that's where I had to look at the social platforms, because I thought that's how I can attract business. I understood, of course, creating content attracts business, and but I wasn't sure which platform. And so I started to, you know, look, okay, who are the top agents? What are they doing? Where are they at? A lot of the top agents are on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and rightfully so, you know, and doing some good things there. But whenever I looked at that, I also saw a lot of content initially, you know, a lot of content of them talking about their years of experience. They've been in the business 5, 10, 15 years. And they were talking about everything they knew, the stories the clients they've worked with, the lessons they've learned. You know, do this, don't do that. You know, this is what you should do to buy a home. And what I saw there is I was like, well, I don't have that. I don't have the experience. I don't have 15 years of working with clients and the stories. And so it didn't seem like a good fit for me. I was like, well, I'm not sure if that's my personality, plus to kind of spit all that out in 60 seconds or less, okay, it makes sense, I get it. But again, how could I make content on, you know, the appraisal process and the escrow process and what you should do to, I mean, I could read that stuff online and regurgitate, but it didn't really feel authentic to me because I hadn't really done it yet. I was like, I haven't done it. I haven't been through that. I haven't helped somebody buy a home through the contract. I haven't gone through I mean, I've done it personally, I suppose. And I've done some investment properties on the side myself, some fix and flips and things like that. But again, I don't know, something just didn't sit well with me. I was just thinking, I don't know if this is the right fit for me. And so YouTube was my last choice. YouTube was the last choice on the list just because there really wasn't a lot of people talking about it. So I thought, well, let me dig into this YouTube thing and start looking at YouTube. And what I did was I was in a Facebook group. Here's what kind of really initially sparked everything is I was in a Facebook group, and they would put out a list of some of the top agents in production and team growth and things like that. And I would just look at that list, and then I was like, what's the commonality with the top 5, top 6 agents? And so I started looking at them more. They had social media presence, but what they really had a presence on was YouTube. And I thought, you know what? They had successful YouTube channels, and I thought, okay, maybe there's something to this YouTube thing. Well, me being a little bit old school, the first thing I did was buy books. I bought probably like 8 different YouTube marketing books. One of those was YouTube Secrets. And that's where, I've told Benji this story before. I read through YouTube Secrets, and he only mentions, like, there's one little paragraph in there that he talks about. He started a channel in 2009. Think about this, a real estate channel in 2009, and he called it Home Deals TV. And he was a struggling real estate agent. He said he was about to get out of the business because he was doing less than a deal per month. He said he was, his last year he had done barely 10 deals. It was enough for where he was about to quit the business. But because of his YouTube channel, which he was just going on there, talking about the areas, answering questions, things like that, that HUD reached out to him and gave him the contract for the Pacific Northwest to list all of the HUD homes based on his YouTube channel. And the next year he ended up selling over 100 homes. And that was it. He's like, saved my marriage, saved my career, saved my income at that time. Now he continued that channel really for only a couple of more years after that, and then transitioned into mainly what he does now is food. But it was just interesting. It was just that little thing that kind of sparked me. Okay, well, here he is talking about some of the areas and things like that. And so then I start to go research and start to, find out, okay, where is this working? Who's doing this? Who's doing what? And so, and that was it. Come across several channels. You can look at a lot of real estate channels, and there's people doing this well. There's people not doing so. So I had to start looking at videos. What videos are performing? What videos are not performing? And then ultimately, even there's this lady, Karen Carr, who, I don't know, she probably started really working on this, 5 or 6 years ago, and come across some of her stuff. And she talks, not so much anymore, but back then, a couple of years ago, she was talking about it a little bit more in depth. But, found some of her content. I found some other channels. And I mentioned this before, Katie Day, I found like her pros and cons video, and at the time it had like 50,000 views. And I don't think I had found another real estate agent's videos at the time that had like that many views. And I thought, oh, pros and cons. Well, so it was all just this whole cascade of events to where just researching and going down rabbit holes and looking for more and more information that just led me to one thing after another. And then I thought, okay, well, I know Dallas. I've been in Dallas for 20 years. I can talk about Dallas. That's something I can do. And that's whenever I started to learn, oh, YouTube is a search engine, not a social media platform. It's not a social platform. It is a search engine, And so that was something where I thought, okay, this could fit my personality. I can talk about Dallas. I could do that all day long. Dallas pros and cons, sure. Katie made a Houston pros and cons. Oh, I could do Dallas pros and cons. And the thing is I can't copy her because she's talking about Houston, but I can look at her video, and if she's talking about weather and traffic and job growth and economy and those types of things, that gives me an idea. Okay, well, I can talk about that stuff just for Dallas. Why not? And so that's where you start to, you can easily look, and I tell people this all the time. You run out of content ideas, just go to our channel. We've got 230 videos on there. Any one of those should give you an idea for your channel if you feel like you're running low. And the thing is that even if you're in Dallas, you can't necessarily copy exactly what I said or did. I mean, you probably could, but it's still going to come out differently. And of course, we never recommend to directly copy somebody, but there's nothing wrong with gaining inspiration and looking for ideas and things to talk about. And so, from there, it was a lot of research on finding a lot of different channels, what videos did well, what videos didn't do well, and moving on from there. But ultimately, as I started to build up those videos and calls start coming in, that's what led me down the path of understanding what we're doing here. And it is a true form of passive prospecting. And to me, it's the most fun I've had out of my whole career, because I am getting to do what I love now, which is I love Dallas. I love my city. I love hanging out, going around, trying new places, new restaurants, new things to do. And that's fun for me. And last night I was in Cedar Hill. It's an area I haven't covered yet, surprisingly, but go to the Cedar Hill State Park, beautiful park on the lake. There's a lot of elevation there. Kind of captured a little bit of the sunset, and I'm sharing that with people. I mean, I'm just thinking, what better way to help others learn about the area than experiencing it yourself and going out there and talking with people and having a great time. And really, that's not, doesn't really seem like work to me. It's everything else behind the scenes, right? And then you got to come home, upload the videos, drag them to this folder, move it to that folder, give it to the editors, work. Yes, that's all kind of the work stuff. But when you're out there actually doing it, I'm like, man, it's a lot of fun. I'm seeing new areas, going to new places as well. Sometimes I haven't even been to them. But I'm creating content now, and all video is communication and sales, more importantly, sales at scale. And you've done this 1,000 times with all of your clients. You've toured them around. You've shared information. If I came to your neighborhood tomorrow and said, hey, I'm looking to buy a home, what's the good and the bad? What's the pros and the cons? You do not need a script to do that. You can walk me through everything that neighborhood has to offer. You would tell me stories. You would tell me about your experiences there. And you would probably tell me what you like, what you don't like. And based on what I'm looking for, maybe there's something else. And that's the conversations you're having every single day. But just like in my previous companies, if that's it, that conversation lives and dies with that client. And we're essentially starting over the next day. But even if you have that conversation with 2 different clients, let's say in a single day, if you went home that evening and it's so fresh on your mind and you recorded a video on that video is giving you the opportunity to now get that message and that information to 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, maybe 10,000, maybe 100,000 people. That's the opportunity at hand. And so that is passive prospecting, because you're putting in the effort once, but the return is going to continually come back to you, just like what we're working towards with passive income. I mean, it's the whole point of doing what we do is to either build up a nest egg, a lump sum that we can live off of, or that we have assets that are producing income on a monthly basis that at some point we may never stop working, but we want that freedom and that ability to actually say, you know what, I have the choice. Or if I want to take a week off, I'm not going to feel bad about it. Or I can take a month off, or 2 months off, or 3 months off maybe. Maybe sometimes you need a complete reset. But if the finances are there, you have a passive income to pay the bills and take care of your family, that's what we're working towards. But in the meantime, to build up to that, what if you could passively prospect and build towards that in a much easier way, in my opinion? Again, hey, some people love prospecting. Some people love that pursuit. I'm just at a different point in my life where I'm enjoying doing these other things. I'm enjoying creating the content, making the videos, and showing people around town through video and reaching a larger audience. And the great thing about this too is it's not just providing for me, it's providing for an entire team. You know, I mean, Chrissy, we have Chrissy full time. It provides for my partner, Travis. It provides for our operations manager. It provides for Alex, who's in this room with me right now, recording this on camera so that we can use this content for additional content. So we're doubling up even on what we're doing now. You know, I think about AJ and Preston and Zach, Marina. Zach and Marina are in this room right now. A couple of our team members, we're providing for them too. You know, I can't tell you how many times Zach has thanked us for, you know, just providing him a platform. Look, Zach's a hard worker, Marina too. But you know, to provide them a platform, this is an opportunity going just beyond myself. And that's the cool thing, because I'm not focused on prospecting 90% of the time, which is what I was doing before in all my other businesses. Is I spent so much time doing that I never thought about or was in the position to scale myself or scale my business. And you know, now that I'm able to take a step back and create a video that can reach far more people than I would ever reach. One video has reached more people than I could probably ever reach individually in my lifetime possibly. And that's what allows me the freedom to help so many others, to provide a platform and an opportunity for other people as well to earn full-time incomes. And to me, that's what it's all about right there. So just something to think about and chew on, I suppose there. Justin, how about you, man? You own a video company. You own a media company. I mean, I'm sure have you ever looked at it in the terms of passive prospecting for your business? I mean, I know you generate a lot of business from your videos and content, if you're there.
Yeah. No, I'm here. I love the monologues that you do in these segments. I think you really do provide some insights. If people listen and compartmentalize your story, I think they can find inspiration in it, right? Because one, I mean, if people really understand what YouTube is, I think it would completely change their attention graph as to where they're deploying their time and resources. I'm reading I have it in front of me, Daryl Eves' book, The YouTube Formula. Fascinating read, and again, inspired by people like Christina Smallhorn and Karen, and there's a whole bunch of them that kind of led me down the same path. To answer your question though, I do think of it as passive prospecting. So the video production company is really in place to serve the needs that, you know, I was the video production company for a very long time. Like, I shot every single video myself, edited it myself, and ultimately needed to hire somebody to help me with that, right? And by proximity, the people that are within my ecosystem or organization wanted access to the ability to do things that I was doing, and I wanted to provide them that opportunity. I let it get away from me for a little bit, where the production company started doing a lot of work for a lot of other businesses in the area. And it's actually Chris Doe, and I had a conversation kind of off channel a little bit after I had him on Clubhouse and developed a bit of a friendship with him. And I asked him about how he thought about his agency versus what he's doing now. So for context, anybody that doesn't know Chris Doe, he runs The Future, which is an education technologies YouTube channel around the agency world. And he actually shut down a very, very successful agency to get into ed tech. What he told me was, in that conversation I had with him, was really like, why are you doing what you're doing, right? Like, ultimately, let's not talk about the platforms. Let's not talk about the employees. Let's not talk about all the things. Like, why are you doing what you're doing? And I was like, well, ultimately, to create a better life for my family and wife and anybody that is around me. I was like, all right, how do you do that? I was like, I sell a lot of real estate, and ultimately more than I can handle on my own. So I built the team, and then there wasn't a company that was providing the service that was to the caliber I wanted. So we created the company. I was like, okay. I was like, now the production company. He's like, why are they there? I was like, well, ultimately because I was the production company, and I wanted to really show my clients how much I cared about the work that I did, and that it wasn't just me and a videographer. Like, we're professionals at what we do, right? So we started bringing in editors and subcontractors and graphic designers and all these other people. And I mean, really, we were a full-blown production company. It's like, okay. He's like, now why are you doing work for all of these other people? And I was like, well, they're around me, right? I said, like lawyers and people that are in proximity to me see what I'm doing. They want to do it too. And it's, we're charging a decent fee for it, so wouldn't it make sense? He's like, no. He's like, it doesn't make any sense. He's like, do you need any more clients? I'm like, no. He's like, well, then why are you hiring more clients? I was like, interesting. So we actually made a pivot about 6 months ago where the production company is still there, still formalized. We still do very, very, very selective work. But we put massive restrictions around where we're putting our efforts. And we're actually refining that more and more and putting more restrictions in place. And outsourcing stuff that doesn't track to exactly what you said, right? Why are we doing it? And it's passive prospecting. And what are the types of content we're putting out? Well, the more active stuff like the Reels and the TikToks and all these different things. But ultimately, like, all roads lead back to YouTube. And I have 2 channels. I run the Prime Real Estate Brokerage channel, which is anybody looking to relocate to Southwestern Ontario, or anybody looking for the very best agent in any city on the planet, because I have the best referral networks on the planet. I can refer you to Levi or Armando or Gina or Mia or all these people that I have real relationships with, right? Or you can come visit me on my personal channel, Justin Conoco at youtube.com. If you're an agent looking to figure out how to build a company, right? How to manage the amount of business that we do here and the team and productivity and all the things, literally every single thing I did that lives on my channel, 2 very different channels. So my production company is still in place, right? Still doing all the things. Now is very focused on our production calendar being centered around those 2 channels first, and then everything else comes off that. And I can tell you, Levi, that the actual phone ringing and deals and passive business you're talking about, being able to work and build, I was surprised. We only have 2,600 subscribers on my Prime channel. We popped 1 million views on that channel, right? It was dormant for like 7 years before I got focused. My personal channel, I was surprised. I just getting close to 1,200 now, and I haven't even looked at that because, if you're really focused on creating the content that's serving the audience, I think it does 2 things. One, it does help you prospect and generate real business. But more than that, Levi, I think it's really helped you understand why you're doing what you're doing and where you're deploying your energy. And I think my favorite thing that you just said was that part about you enjoying going to the restaurants and the parks and like bringing a camera with you. And like, you have found a way that brings you joy. And I think if every single person here can find the way to generate business that brings them joy, then you've made it. It may not be YouTube, right? For Levi, it is. For myself, 100%. Like, I have more camera gear than I should have at this point. But that brings me joy, and you can hire that out and everything else too. But I would just encourage people that I think this industry makes people chase other people's versions of success. But your story, Levi, shows that like it was a refining process, and it was always going back to the well and talking to Travis and Chrissy, and like you're kind of standing in the fire, burning off the chafe, and like you probably still haven't achieved your final form, whatever that is, right? But I think YouTube's a great platform to do that, and that's my 2 cents. Very long answer to a very simple question.
No, man, thank you for sharing that, and thanks for the kind words there. So, I mean, no, we are actually we're looking at how do we improve and increase more content. Those are the conversations we're having right now because we are investing in more people. We're bringing more people onto the team so that we can get back to the core of it, which, when I first started, that's all I did was create content because I didn't have a business. There was nothing there. It was it. And so, and then as soon as the clients come in, that's where things you have to start to really ask yourself those questions, which is, where do I want this to go? What do I want this to do? Now, yes, if you want to be a solo agent and you want to work with 2, 3, 4 clients a month, nothing wrong with that at all whatsoever. If you want to generate your business from cold calling or door knocking, nothing wrong with that at all whatsoever. It's funny is because I talk about Ricky Carruth, who is, has a large team, but also does a lot of sales. Ricky Carruth like prides himself on, it's funny, he's a cold caller, but he, of course he teaches people on YouTube, right? So he teaches people on YouTube how to cold call, but he also has he's a solo agent, and he still, he prides himself on doing, now again, this is not everybody, but I believe either 100 transactions or 20 million in production, maybe it's both, but 20 million in production a year himself personally as a solo agent cold calling. And that's his bread and butter. That's what he does. Now he's part of a network that he's able to build a team out as well, which is what's helping him do that through YouTube. But still, his main real estate practice, as far as I know, I believe he could have changed that, but he's still a solo agent doing it through cold calling. And and that's his thing. And so that's what I always encourage people to do as well. And you have to ask yourself, do you want to be a solo agent? Do you want to be a team lead? Do you want to have a referral partner? If business gets too much, do you want to cut off business? Do you only want to do 1 or 2 transactions a month, or 5 or 6, or what's manageable? Or do you have bigger ambitions? For myself, I really was going to kind of go at things slowly but surely. Travis is really we're both ambitious, but I think he's more outspokenly ambitious. And so from the get-go, he had these high aspirations, these high goals. To me, I was just like, hey, I'm just going to make some videos, do some deals, easy peasy, no big deal. And really, Travis is the one that encouraged me over and over again, was his excitement, his love to expand and grow, and he wants to be big. He wants to be big in production. He wants to be big in a team. I mean, everything. And I love that. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, why not? Let's go for it. And so I'm willing to take that journey with him. So he's inspired me and got me through that to do that as well. And so now I look at this too, as I mentioned, the team that we have in place and the people that we're helping on top of that. To me, that's what it's all about there too. But find your path. Find your path. Are you a people person? Are you a phone call person? Are you a video person? I think that's the easiest place to start. Literally put yourself in a bucket. Okay, do I like to meet people? Do I have to be that in-person person? Or would I like to be behind a camera? Or do I not want to meet anybody or be on camera? I just want to make phone calls. Or do I want to be am I a copywriter and I want to attract business through postcards and newsletters, and I just want to write copy, and because copywriting is one of the best forms of selling still to this day, believe it or not. So are you a people person? Are you a copywriter? Are you a phone person? Are you a video person? Okay, now you've put yourself in that bucket. How are you going to generate business? If you're a phone person, is that going to be cold calling? Is it going to be calling FSBOs? Is it going to be calling expireds? Is it going to be calling your friends and your family? Is it going to be calling, whoever? Okay, if it's a people person, okay, are you going to door knock? Are you going to go to events? Are you going to join clubs? Join the golf club, the horse club, the tennis club? Is that how you're going to generate your business? And that's what works for you. Hey, if you want to be on video and you want to create video, okay, what type of video? Short form, long form? Which platform? And yes, I do believe you should decide on one platform in the beginning. I do think that does help. Not to saying you can't be successful on multiple platforms at once, but I do believe if you focus in on one and become successful there, it's much easier to branch off into the other ones. So, make those decisions, break that down, ask yourself those tough questions, decide what, and follow the path of least resistance. And whenever I say that, that doesn't mean hard work is not ahead of you, but if you can find out what the path of least resistance is for you, which is it the phone, and is it calling expireds because you already know they listed their house once and they, clearly they want to sell their house, so you feel like that's a better market for you, then make that decision and go down that route and just become the best FSBO or expired listing caller on the planet. And guess what? There's books out there. There's videos out there. If you want to be a copywriter, guess what? Trust me, there are postcard marketing books out there. There's postcard marketing videos. Dan Kennedy, probably one of the best authors on the planet for marketing in general, but then on top of that, for copywriting. That's the thing. I'm not the best copywriter. Actually, we're bringing in Carlos. I don't know, Justin, do you know who Carlos Redlish is? Have you ever met him or heard of him?
No, I don't. I'll look him up right now.
Okay, so Carlos, Redlish, he's one of the best copywriters on the planet. We just hired him to do a series of 50 emails for us. And that's not cheap, but he's one of the best copywriters because that's his art. And again, that is something that we know we need in a follow-up to our business. And we're probably going to have him on, Justin. We'll probably do something on Zoom. I don't know if you're in our Facebook group, then we'll probably post it in there and do a private call. But he agreed to at least 4 calls where we get on Zoom. And let me know, guys. You can hit me up in the chat too, or if that's something you'd be interested in. But he wants to review people's copy, or he wants to teach, a class or 2 on Zoom on copywriting, and then do some interactive where if you want to bring your email or your postcards or something like that, we can actually walk through that. He wants to help people, critique some of their copy, and maybe it's on your website. Every piece of written copy that you have matters. It's all selling, and it's either selling or it's not selling. That's what it comes down to. So everything that we do is either selling or it's not selling. And that's the thing, is that we talk about this with our team. Every conversation there, a sell is made, right? I love that line from Boiler Room way back in 2000. Ben Affleck's in that room and he's like, hey, a sell is made on every conversation. Either you're selling them or they're selling you. And so your website, every time somebody visits your website, either your website is selling them or it's not. And that, a lot of it has to do with the copy and the format and the flow. So is that positioned correctly? Your YouTube channel, that is selling people when they come to it. What's your trailer video? What's your featured video? What plays automatically when they come to your channel? What are they seeing? What does your banner say? All of that matters. What does your description say? What is everything on there? When they go to your Instagram, what does it say in your bio? That is selling. Everything is sells. It is, period. Whether you like that term or not, as far as I know, we're in the business of that. It is helping people. And understand the live here if they're thinking about it. I mean, we can't force anybody to buy a house, but also let them know the bad. Hey, we let them know the good, the bad, and ultimately the opportunity that's at hand. So it all comes down to that. So think about who you are. Follow the path of least resistance to generate your business. I believe start there. Go all in on that, dedicate it. We always talk about hyper learning in 60 days. And what I mean by hyper learning is you go all in on that subject. You find as many books. Jay Shetty says if you read 5 books on a subject, you'll be more proficient than 99% of the people out there just by reading 5 books. Like if you want to learn psychology, read 5 psychology books and you'll probably be up to speed up there with some of the top psychologists. Don't quote me on that, but you get the idea. He's just saying that if you really dig in on a subject, there's so much information out there, you can really start to understand a plan and put it into place. Oh, Chrissy, sorry, how are you? Any final words you'd like to recap on there? How are you doing there today?
I'm doing good. No, I loved everything that was said today. I just think that it's really important for people to get out there and just find what kind of makes their business tick. And everybody's a little bit different, but at the end of the day, it comes down to getting out there and doing the work and learning the platforms that you want to be a part of. So as long as you're doing those things and you're, confiding in people who are there to help boost your business, and you're helping your business along by bringing along the right people to help you build that business as well, you're going to be headed in the right direction.
There you go. All right, real quick. I always forget to check the chat. Let's see, a couple of questions and we'll end up on here. Oh, Armando says he's the best FSBO expired caller ever. There you go, Armando. There's your money. Let's see, after doing all the suburbs in your area, are you starting to repeat the ones you did a year or two ago? Where do you get new video ideas? Okay, yeah, kind of mentioned that earlier, that look on our channel. I think there's plenty of ideas. I mean, we've done 15 videos on one particular suburb, so, and I think there's still more I can do on that suburb. So I think just think outside the box a little bit, think about other things that you can cover in that area. And again, yeah, you could always reference our channel, but I think there are, there's lots of opportunities to create at least 15 pieces of content in every suburb. But then, yeah, I mean, if you did a vlog tour over a year and a half ago, why not do another one? You can do an updated version. Nothing wrong with that at all. You can do one a year. I mean, that's something to keep in mind. You want the other ones to still be relevant, and if you position them correctly, then they can still be evergreen. But I mean, things do change over the course of a year or 2 or 3. So yeah, why not? You can double back and do some of the same content over again. So I think that covers it for today. Justin, thank you so much for joining us. And can you remind us when your remind us all in here when your room is, the practical and tactical?
Happy to be here, Levi. Yeah, never. I actually landed the plane on that room last or 2 weeks ago before I went on vacation. I did a time audit, so I encourage everybody to do the same thing. So set an alarm every 15 minutes, write down what you're working on, and does it track to your overall vision. The Practical and Tactical community still exists on Facebook. Andy T doesn't want me to end that room, so he wants to host one monthly, like, massive mastermind, but just laser focused right now, so I had to land the plane on that room. So I'll just be here hanging out and supporting my friends for now.
All right, there you go. And how was the vacation? Where'd you go?
Unbelievable. We went up to Muskoka, which is the northern part of Ontario, and my wife and I own the businesses together, so it's never really a vacation, but I think everybody here can be inspired to create an integrated life, like Levi was talking about. Find something that fires you up, and YouTube is a great way to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the power of video as well. You know, mentioning that, the thing is I'm assuming you didn't have to make any YouTube videos while you're on vacation, right? You those were still getting published and going out. You probably made those ahead of time, I'm assuming?
Yeah. So we batch everything.
Yep.
Once a week I do the high volume content. And then the only thing I'm lacking on, honestly, Levi, is the neighborhood tours, right? Like, that's one thing. I want to get to 3 a week. We're getting about 1 a week out now. We still have consistent listing videos. The market update videos are crushing, but I do know long term, the neighborhood tour videos, the format of getting those out ahead of time, that's what I'm working on now, which is one of the reasons why I closed Practical and Tactical, is that's an hour that I can devote to doing a YouTube video, right? So trying to figure that out as we speak.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, you do great neighborhood videos, because just when you even do your mini lives, I guess you could say, which are like 2 or 3 minutes sometimes on Instagram, you always talk through an area very, very well, showcase the house a little bit. I mean, it seems like, you've just, I could listen to you for 15 or 20 minutes, no problem. So I think that would be a great asset to your channel, is some longer form videos in the neighborhoods. Especially with that wardrobe you've got, man. I tell you what, you've got the threads for YouTube all day long. So
you're too much.
You got the threads. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And there you go. We'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us on today's podcast. If you're interested in partnering with us to access our YouTube course and coaching all for free, schedule a call at 5starstrategycall.com.